Welcome to the tutorial on Organizational Behaviour. Today the chapter is Foundations of Group Behavior. In the first slide, we are going to learn about the definition of group, and we will also classify the groups. So what is group? Groups are defined as two or more individuals interacting and interdependent who have come together to achieve particular objectives. That means two or more individuals who came together to achieve a set goal is known as group. There are two main types of groups, formal group and informal group. The first is formal group, where the organization establishes the group with a defined work task and outcomes. That means formal group is established by the organizational structure where the organization designate the work with the specific task. On the other hand, the second group is informal group. That is not the part of the organizational structure. They are often established in reaction to a need for social interaction and form naturally. That means informal group are the alliances that are neither formally structured nor organizationally determined. The informal group appear naturally in response to the need for social contact, and the informal group deeply affect behavior and performance. We can see the sub-classifications of groups. Within the category of formal groups, there are two main types. The common group is one that reports directly to a given manager, such as a department or unit. A task group is formed to accomplish a particular objective but is not limited by the structure or departments of the organization. On the other hand, the informal groups also have two subgroups. They are typically formed around a common interest, such as an interest group, or around common characteristics such as a friendship group. So under the formal group, the common group composed of the individuals who report directly to a given manager, and the task group comes together to complete a specific job in the organization but not limited by hierarchical boundaries. And among the informal group, the members of the interest group come together to obtain a specific objective with which each is concerned. Friendship group is another informal group where the members brought together because they share one or more common characteristics. Why people join groups? There are many reasons that people will join groups. However, the social identity theory suggests that people have emotional reactions to the failures or success of a group because their self-esteem gets tied into the performance of a group. Social identity is developed when the characteristics of similarity, distinctiveness, status, and uncertainty reduction are present. Members of a group often join the groups of people who are similar to them. However, they want there to be a distinctiveness to the group. Since the people define themselves by groups, they will tend to want to be a part of a high status groups. People also join groups to reduce uncertainty as a way to maintain a sense of who they are and how they fit into this world. 5 stages of group development model. The 5 stages of group development model characterizes groups as moving through 5 distinct stages in the group process. They are pre-stage 1. In the pre-stage 1, they are scattered, but in the first stage, they try to form their group, and the second stage is storming, and the third stage is norming, and the fourth stage is performing, and the final stage is adjourning. Under the 5 stages of group development, the forming stage is filled with uncertainty as group members figure out their roles and their group norms. The storming stage occurs as the group members develop closer relationships and a sense of cohesiveness. They move into the norming stage. When the group is functioning well together and achieving their goals, they are in the performing stage, and if it is a temporary group, they will wrap up activities and adjourn in the final stage. Although the 5-stage development model is widely accepted, but there are some critics. The assumption that the group becomes more effective through each of the stages is somewhat suspect. The process is not always that linear, and several stages may occur at the same time. Also, group may regress into early stages at some point in the process, and also the model ignores the organizational context. We have seen in our study of earlier theories that context can have a large impact on behavior. An alternative model for group formation. In the temporary groups, there are deadlines which don't follow the 5-stage model. We can see the punctuated equilibrium model is another alternative model for group formation. The punctuated equilibrium model shows that temporary groups under deadlines go through transition between inertia and activity. At the halfway point, they experience an increase in productivity. The sequence of the actions under the punctuated equilibrium model is setting group direction and the first phase of inertia and halfway point transition, and there is a major changes, and in the second phase inertia and ultimately accelerated activity which will increase the productivity. Group properties. There are several properties of groups that help shape group behavior and explain and predict individual behavior. So the properties of group are roles, norms, status, size, and cohesiveness. The first group property is roles. Roles are the expected behavior individual will take on in a group, such as the leader or the taskmaster. Each role is assigned a certain identity that explains expected attitudes and behaviors that composed with the role identity. Each individual has their own point of view of how they are supposed to act in the context of the group. That is called the role perception. Role expectations looks at how others believe a person should act in a given situation, and the role conflict occurs when the expected behaviors don't match up with the behaviors being exhibited. That means the role identity indicates the consistent attitudes and behavior, and role perception indicates the situation of how they are supposed to act in the context, and the role expectations looks at how others believe a person should act in a given situation, and whenever there is a divergent role expectation, that is known as role conflict. There was an experiment on the role as a group property, and that experiment is done by the Zimbardo. Zimbardo conducted a prison experiment at Stanford University where he randomly assigned students to the role of guards and prisoners. He set up a fake prison in the psychology building on Stanford's campus and made the experiment as realistic as possible. Within 6 days, the guards and the prisoners had taken their roles in such a way that the experiment was halted due to the concerns about the impact on the participants. The guards took their role seriously and treated the prisoners with disdain and disrespect. In response, the prisoners, even though they were only assigned the role, were subservient to the guards. They could have fought back or rebelled, but they fell into the role and took the negative behavior of the guards as if they were truly prisoners. The second group property is norms. Norms are the acceptable standards of behavior within a group that are shared by the group members. There are different types of norms, such as performance norms that look at an acceptable work level, appearance norms about what to wear, social arrangement norms look at acceptable relationships, and the allocation of resources norms look at how things are distributed. There were studies on group norms, and the study was done by the Hawthorne. The findings have been widely used in the understanding of group interactions. These studies found that worker behavior was highly influenced by the group norms, and individual productivity was influenced by the standards of the group set forth. Also, money was not as important in determining worker output as group standards and sentiments were. That means the Hawthorne studies shows that worker behavior and sentiments were closely related, and the group influence, the norms were significant in affecting individual behavior. Group standards or norms were highly effective in establishing individual worker output, and the findings also shows that money was less a factor in determining worker output than were group standards, sentiments, and security. Group norms and behavior are based on conformity, where individuals will gain acceptance with the group by changing their behavior to more closely match that of the group. Individual will match their behavior to reference groups, that means the groups they see as important. And the ASK studies furthered our understanding of conformity and demonstrated the power of conformance. The ASK set forth a series of experiments where the answers were fairly easy and straightforward. However, when group members answer incorrectly, it influenced the subject to answer incorrectly as well, even though the answer was not difficult. This study, however, was done a number of years ago, and some research has shown that conformity is decreasing in importance and can be culturally bound. However, the group norms and behavior are based on conformity, where individual will gain acceptance with the group by changing their behavior to more closely match that of the group. Some behavior do not like to conform and adhere to the set norms due to a number of reasons. Individuals of this nature may engage in deviant workplace behavior or behavior that goes against the organizational norms and hinders the desired outcomes of the organization. Whenever a member defies the norms, there may be deviant workplace behavior. In that case, such deviant workplace behavior may violate the organizational norms, as well as it will threaten the well-being of the organization. Some of the outcome of deviant workplace behavior may be impact on working speed, which will impact the production. There may be damage and stealing of property. There may be favoritism and gossip, which is known as political behavior, and there may be sexual harassment, which is known as personal aggression. So these are the possible outcome which may arise from the deviant workplace behavior, and deviant workplace behavior may arise whenever there is a characteristics of defying the norms. Group norms can discourage deviant workplace behavior because the group won't accept the behavior. But group membership can also encourage deviant behavior because the individual will feel like they can hide in the group and the chance of being caught is lowered. However, the group can encourage the deviant behavior or discourage the deviant behavior. That depends on the situation in the group. Third group property is status. So status is another group property, and it refers to the position and rank given to groups or their members in a way to differentiate members. Status can influence behavior and has been found to be a significant motivator. The status characteristics theory suggests that status is derived by one of the three sources. The first one is the power a person has over others and the ability to contribute to group goals or personal characteristics. So these are the three sources from where status is derived by the group member. Status can have an impact or effects on a number of things in groups. Firstly, it can impact norms within a group where high status members don't feel the need to conform to the group norms but can pressure others to conform. And the second effect is it can impact group interaction where members who hold more status tend to be more assertive and can hinder the new ideas being presented. And finally, the status impacts perceived equity in a group, which will influence how engaged others are in the group process. So these are the effects that arises from the status of the group members. And the fourth group property is size of the group. Group size affects behavior because size is an important factor in group behavior as well and impacts the behavior in groups. The larger the group, the harder it is to get contribution by all members and do so in a timely manner. Whereas small group can be limited in their problem solving ability, and the availability of resources could be limited. So these are the best use of group, where the small group is better for speed work and individual performance and overall performance. On the other hand, the large group is better for problem solving, for diverse input as well as fact finding goals. There are some detrimental behaviors that can occur around group size. Social loafing is an example where there is a tendency for individuals to not work as hard in group as they would on an individual basis. This is exhibited in Ringelmann's rope pull example. Initially, the group brought about greater productivity, but as the group grew larger, each individual contributed less to the group. This could be due to the fact that people didn't think things are equitable, or they let others take the responsibility because they know they don't have to for the outcome to occur. This is often referred to as free riding. To avoid the social loafing, the manager should build in individual accountability. When working with group managers, one must be sure to build an individual accountability. Social loafing can be prevented by setting up goals, by encouraging intergroup competition, by using peer evaluation as part of the feedback process, and ultimately linking group rewards to individual behavior. So these are the ways by which social loafing can be prevented. The fifth and the final group property is cohesiveness. Cohesiveness indicates the degree to which the group members are attracted to each other and are motivated to stay in the group. Managers can do a lot to encourage group cohesiveness, but they can't prescribe it. Some things they can do to foster the cohesiveness is to keep the group smaller and encourage agreement with group goals. The manager can increase the time members spend together. The manager can increase group status and admission difficulty. The manager can stimulate competition with other groups. The manager can give rewards to the group, not the individuals, as well as the manager can physically isolate the group. So these are the ways by which the manager can increase the cohesiveness, and this will increase the productivity. Ultimately, this will help in achieving the organizational goal. So based on the group property, the managers can decide what should be done to get benefit from the group and to avoid the negative impacts from the group. Thank you.